Hey friends, it's Jennifer. I hope you guys are doing well. In today's video, I'm going to take this blank piece of paper and some paper scraps that I have, and we're going to make some cute little ephemera or pieces that you can use in your journals or other places. You're going to need some glue. I am using, this is an Elmer's school glue bottle, but I tend to take other glue from different glues and use this bottle, just pour it in there. But I tend to make mine extremely watery because it helps the paper to adhere better. You're also going to need a paintbrush and some water, that's just to spread the glue out, and water that glue down a little bit. You don't want it to be too the ratio to be too watery versus the glue. You want it to be about half and half. So I'm just going to take a piece of paper. This is copy paper that's been dyed. You can use regular white paper if you want to, whatever you have. I just thought that this would make a nice background. And you can see I'm just dropping my glue down on there. It's pretty runny, but the ratio is about a little more than half glue and then the other half water. And that just helps it to not be as stiff, in my opinion. And you're just going to see I'm just taking these bits of paper that I have. Some of it's napkin, some of it's tissue, some of it's scrapbook paper, just the little bits that I have that I know I can't really make a whole lot out of. Um, and I'm just gluing them down onto this paper. So that's what you're going to see me doing here. No rhyme or reason, just gluing them down. And so now here it is, all the bits glued down on the paper. And you can set this aside to dry if you have time. I'm just using the heat gun and I'm just going to dry it all up here. I'm going to lay out my piece of parchment paper and turn it over just so it doesn't stick to my surface. and dry the back of it as well. And then once I get done with this, I'm going to take it over to my iron, and I'm going to lay down 2 sheets of heat proof paper, like the kind that you get when you're pressing things. Something to put under on top of your ironing board, then your paper, then another on top. And I'm just going to iron this flat with my iron. And here it is, just to make it flatter when I work with it. You can dry it after it dries, put it under a couple of books if you don't want to do that. You know, it'll take some time, but once you do that, you can make it flat. And so I just wanted to show you here, if you don't have a bunch of stamps or different things, or if you just wanted to add your own personal touch to your ephemera pieces, I'm just taking a regular pen here and I'm just writing on the piece of paper. I'm writing something like, you can make beautiful things with scraps. This is just to show you that you can use what you have at home with a pen or whatever you have to, you know, scribble on it or to make designs, doodles on it. That makes it even more unique. So I'm just doing that here just to show you. If you do that, you need to spray it with a workable fixative, or in this case, it's a matte finish, just to keep the ink from running if you decide to put anything else down on top of it. Any other watery substance that will keep it from running. And so here I'm just going to use stamps. I just picked some out of my thing. This happens to be, I think, like little tickets. And I'm just using ink of all kinds. Some of it is waterproof, some of it is not. And just remember that if you don't use waterproof ink, you do need to spray it if you intend to put any other elements on top, like water, or add any other glue-based stuff. It will make that ink run. So here I'm just taking the stamps, any and all different stamps and all different inks, and I'm just laying it down over top of all of the paper, just any spot that I want to put them on top of. I'm even layering some of the stamps on top of each other. And so here it is. You can see I've just stamped over top of all of my little things. Just making sure it's not too hard, that it's bendable and movable. And now you say, what are we going to do out of this? Well, I'm going to take my hole punch first and make some little circles. I use circles in just about all of everything that I do, whether it's journals or ephemera pieces or anything. So I'm just going across one line down here at the bottom, and I'm just punching out some circles. You can see them here. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to just cut a straight line, cut that bit off. And if you're very much into saving your scraps, you can take these bits and repurpose them onto another piece of paper if you would like. I'm going to go ahead and ink these circles because I will use them, and I like to just go ahead and give them a coat of ink to start with, just so it'll be done. Now I'm going to take some scissors, no ruler or anything. I'm just going to cut out some strips here to use as pieces in some clusters. And then I'm going to take these and just cut them into rectangles, no ruler or anything. And I'm going to set those aside. Here's where I remembered that I used not waterproof ink. And so I'm spraying this to allow it to dry in case I decide to put anything else on top of it. So while that dries, we're going to work on these little rectangles that I cut out and make some clusters. So when I make clusters, I usually take a variation of papers. This just happens to be coffee dyed watercolor paper. You just see me ripping some strips. There's some book page here and some accounting paper that has been tea dyed, and I'm just going through and putting a piece of this and a piece of that together, and then putting that paper that we just cut out, just using those little rectangle strips to put in there and just glue them together to make clusters. And so that's what you're seeing me do here. And so now I'm just going back and making sure that the glue got on all of the pieces there, just making sure that they are attached to each other. And now I'm going to go back to this page and I'm going to cut more strips, but they're going to be wider because I'm going to cut out some hearts. For those of you who have been watching here recently, for this year I've decided to put a heart on everything that I do to remind myself to love others and to love myself and my work better. And so I thought it'd be really cute to have some of these little hearts. So I cut a more of a wider strip here, and I just folded it in half, and I'm just cutting out some hearts. You can see I'm not really being perfect with it, just like you did in elementary school where they taught you how to cut out hearts that were semi-even. This is what I'm doing here. And here they are. I think they turned out really cute. I'll use those on some projects. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink those up as well. Okay, now I'm going to take what's left of the paper and I'm going to cut some more wider strips, but I'm going to use these and make little squares. And I'm going to use these. I'll use these in projects. I'll sew around them and back them onto other things. And you'll see I'm going to just do a couple of them here just to give you some idea of what I would do with these. I'm not going to do it for every single one of them, but anyway, with the remaining paper, I'm going to cut it into wider strips and make larger square pieces to make some ephemera, just to get rid of the paper there or get rid of the rest of the project. This is just an idea of what I would do. There are tons of things that you could do besides what I'm doing here, but this is how I've chosen to do this particular piece. And you can see there was a little bit there that needed some glue, so I added some in there. And now these are the smaller square pieces, and I'm just going to give you an example of how I would use these. I've taken some graph paper that's been tea dyed, and I'm just going to back these onto some of these squares, just a couple of them, just so that you'll know kind of an example of a way that you can add to these. You can layer these pieces up onto anything really. This is just one way that I'm showing you how. And so I took these to my sewing machine and I sewed around the edges. You can see there's two of them, but I went ahead and sewed around the inner edges of these other ones as well, because as I said, you can layer them up, and you can use them for anything really. I'm just going to ink around these two that I put the extra pieces of paper on just so they would be done. There's the little squares and the hearts and the circles. Now I'm going to take these bigger chunks and I'm going to sew around them with my sewing machine. Just whatever thread I have in there in my sewing machine. So I'm just going to sew around those edges because, again, I can use these alone or I can back them onto something. And now we're going to get back to these clusters now that they've kind of had a chance to dry. There's quite a few of these. And I'm just going to take some accounting paper that has been tea dyed and some circle stamps. Again, I've said earlier I use circle stamps in just about everything I do. These I don't remember. Maybe they came from Temu or somewhere. Maybe Amazon. Anyway, I've had them for a while. So I'm just going to put some stamps down on to my acrylic block. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink the first stamp. That will be the one that I use. But I'm also going ahead and using the excess ink on here. I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it on this page because, like I said, I will use the circle stamps everywhere. I use them everywhere, so it's not like I won't use them. So I'm just going in through here and just picking out different circle stamps and going ahead and stamping the one that I want to use plus the excess off of the ink. Now I'm just going to take my hole puncher, and I've gotten one that fits around this pretty good. So I'm just taking it and I'm going to punch all of these circles out. Again, I'm only going to use the first impression that I use, but I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these out here just to have it done. And now I'm going to ink around all of the circles that I'm going to use for these clusters. And now I'm just laying these out here, and I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to glue them down. Now I'm taking some bubble wrap that I got in the mail, and I'm just going to take some paint, and I'm going to paint on these clusters, paint on the bubble wrap, and then stamp it onto the clusters. And I'm just putting down a piece of parchment paper, and I've picked out several paints, and I'm just going to paint on the bubble wrap, and I'm just going to stamp it down onto this cluster. Now, of course, I'm going to dry them. And I'm going to take my new favorite thing, which is these oil pastel crayons. I got these at a discount store called Ollie's. It's where I live. They have them around, and they were pretty cheap. So I'm going to take those crayons, and I'm going to use them around the circles. There's no water needed. You just use it on whatever you want, and then you can take your a smudging tool like a sponge or your finger. I just use my finger and go around it, and it just sort of blends that crayon into whatever you're working on. And so here are the clusters. Now I'm going to take my fine line markers. I got these at the Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to take one of the markers and I'm going to actually go around on each cluster, and the bubble print paint that I put on there, I'm just going to trace some of those circles just to make them stand out. And so here I have taken them to my sewing machine and went around them, just sewed a rectangle. But I love the way that these have turned out. They are just precious to me because I used up scraps that I had and made something unique and different. Here are the hearts once again. I've inked around these and I absolutely love them. Here are the circles that I will use in any of my projects. Here are the little tiny squares and a couple of the ones that I backed. They turned out cute. And the larger squares, I love them as well. So I hope I've inspired you to use up your scraps and make something beautiful of your own to use in whatever you choose to do in your projects. I hope you guys have a good day. Thanks for watching.